joining us now to weigh in on the investigation, former FBI Special Agent, a Navy SEAL, and host of the Experts podcast, Jonathan Gilliam, back on the program. Jonathan, okay, you've done this type of stuff. I would assume that Santa Fe, New Mexico County Sheriff, who's leading the investigation, has called in some bigger and better investigators than his local, smaller law enforcement unit may be available to them, like state boys or FBI agents. When something like this happens and it's very high profile, how does one go about it? Because you've been on these investigations. Fill us in.
Well, it could go either way. As we saw, for instance, in the JonBenet Ramsey case, that local department really messed things up before anybody else was ever involved in that. And that set the stage for pretty much a disastrous and forever lasting investigation into what actually happened in that case.
Good point.
I think here, when we get the toxicology in, that's going to tell us a tremendous amount. And I would assume, because this is standard practice, that they've looked for any cameras around there, any other types of information that they could gather from technology that would tell them if anybody else was around that area, cell phones, towers, anything like that, their text messages, if they were able to get into their phones and look at certain things. We haven't heard if they've been able to do any of this stuff. And some of that does take a little bit of experience, investigative skills where people have done this before, such as getting into these phones. If they think that if they just make the assumption that there's no foul play, then they may not even attempt to get into phones or look for the toll information on these different cell towers. But I think the toxicology here is going to be huge. And in telling us, was there anything ingested? We know now that there was no carbon monoxide in the bodies that they found, so it wasn't that. But could they have taken something that had fentanyl in it, for instance, that was laced, that they bought somewhere else? There's all types of things like that people may take as recreational or to treat certain issues outside of the medical practice that could have been tainted.
And Gene was, I believe, 95 at the time. Folks hadn't seen him out and about for a bit, but I do recall a few months ago, there were images of him around Santa Fe with a cane, looking very frail. Again, he was 95 years old. He retired from the limelight, 15, 20 years ago. He said no more films. He was writing books, just kind of hanging out, enjoying those golden years in Santa Fe, New Mexico with his wife. There's his wife right there on one of the red carpet scenes. I mean, this was a guy that, for many of us, Jonathan, growing up, he was a guy's guy. Like, so many movies come to mind, right? French Connection, Mississippi Burning, Unforgiven, Quick and Dead, The Replacements, Hoosiers, Behind Enemy Lines, Superman, for crying out loud. And the guy was a Marine, like a real Marine back in the day too, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's
I've never seen him. I've seen bad movies that he may have been associated with, but I've never seen him bad in a movie.
Right.
And he was always
Great
the
actor.
type of actor that played a very interesting, integral part. And so, but we mistake that. We don't know who this guy was outside of that. He's a private individual. We don't know what was going on in Gene Hackman's life and his wife's life.
Great point.
But I tell you one other thing. I want to say this real quick about the police work and how they put information out. Because if you do it wrong, that's going to cause the public to really say, okay, do these people know what they're doing, or are they just Keystone Cops? You know, they said that the dog was dead nearby, making it sound like there was just a dead dog in the room. Then they came out and said it was in a kennel, which are two different things. Then they said they misidentified it as a German Shepherd when it's not a German Shepherd.
I heard that too, right.
So these are things that cause me pause when I'm looking at an investigative team that's looking at things, and the potential, because it's a very remote area, that somebody could have gotten in there and done something, especially with somebody who's elderly. If they were robbing the place, they could have just pushed him down, or if it was somebody that had a beef with either one of them.
Right. Somebody even saying family, right, to get the inheritance, like family could have poisoned. There's so many things. I mean,
falls can be suspicious. Falls can be suspicious.
Great point. All right, Jonathan, here's what we're going to do. We'll wait for the toxicology and those autopsies, and we'll get you back, and we'll discuss then, and we'll see what happened to legendary actor Gene Hackman and his wife. Jonathan Gilliam, former special agent with the FBI, Navy SEAL. Check out his podcast, The Experts. Thank you, Jonathan. Take care.